Here we are, I71 back. Not sure what we're doing, not sure where we're going to go, but we're going to try it, and we're going to do some solo stuff, and we're going to try and see if I can do this kind of on my own. There was a lot of things have happened in the last couple of weeks, as far as Cleveland sports that I have had some opinions on and haven't really shared them. Chris and I have ventured on this journey to create a national college football show that we think is going to be awesome, and we're having fun and we like the trajectory that we're going on. But Chris sort of challenged me to maybe look into continuing the I71 brand and continuing the I71 network of people, and going on my own a little bit and test my skills and on a microphone and see what I can do by myself. So we're going to find out. And you're going to hear some ums and some likes, and I'm going to get better, probably, hopefully. But one way or the other, I think there was a desire from the fan base that we created to have a Cleveland sports show to compete with and give a different vibe from the ESPN Clevelands and the 92.3 The Fans, because all they talk about is the Browns, and that's all they really know. So we'll see what happens. And people know that have watched me the last year or so know that I don't really like talking about the Browns because it's usually negative, and I don't like being negative. But we're going to talk about them, especially with the football season coming around. We're probably not going to talk about them today, but because there's a lot of trade deadline stuff that happened with the Guardians because they woke up and they did some things. We're still going to talk about the Cavs, and we're going to talk about LeBron because he decided not to come home. And it's also Ohio State time, getting close, and training camp is about to kick off. Depending on when this episode comes out, it's either about to kick off or has already kicked off. So, we'll get updates and share just my own solo thoughts. With the National College Football Show, it's going to be a lot more all of college football, not just Ohio State. So I wanted to just continue to talk about Ohio State because it is my favorite team. It is my favorite fan hat that I get to wear as an Ohio State fan. So I still want to be able to talk about them in more in depth than I probably will on the National College Football Show. So let's get into it. The guards, Sleepy Chris, he woke up. What's interesting is that before the trade deadline, I'm in a baseball chat with some guys, and Chris is a Yankees fan, and Rod is a Reds fan, and there's a few of us Guardians fans in there, and I was pretty down about what was going on with the Guardians, and I said the term to Chris: there was a lack of competitive excellence. And what I mean by lack of competitive excellence is the trying to win, trying to put your best foot forward, trying to play the best players that put you in a position to win. And the Guardians haven't always done that. And one of the things I was most disappointed is when they sent Khalil Watson down and kept Petey Halpin up when they activated Jose Ramirez. And so I was super frustrated, and I didn't think that they were going to do anything. And all of a sudden, we look up yesterday. Today's August 4th. So on the day of the trade deadline, the Guardians wake up and they make 3 moves. And I think, they were one of the bigger winners of the trade deadline, which I don't know when the last time we've been able to say that. Joe Adell, Foster Griffin, Nathaniel Lowe. My personal opinion is I wanted them to make a big move, an all-in move to acquire a frontline starting pitcher. A Sandy Alcantara, a Logan Webb, some guys out there that I thought were legitimate Cy Young Award candidates. And none of them came to fruition. But to start with Foster Griffin, I think he's an all-star this year. He's having a good, really awesome year in Washington. Lefty, good stuff, gets outs, having a really, really awesome year. Am I excited about him? Yeah, because Slade Ciccone, and that means Slade Ciccone is going to go to the bullpen. I hope. Slade Ciccone is just up there throwing batting practice most of the time. And Foster Griffin seems to be in a position where he's riding a hot hand. So that's awesome to see that they went for that. And they didn't give up anything for any of these these trades they made. They gave up essentially nothing. I view, it's funny. I'm a little different from most Cleveland fans because I don't view players. I don't get emotionally attached to players. I think there's only one player currently in a Cleveland uniform that's untradeable, and that's Jose Ramirez. Now, like, I don't want to trade Ralphie. I don't want to trade Chase Delauder. I don't want to trade Travis Bazzana, you know. But all of these guys, to me, are invest their assets for the Guardians to use to improve the roster. Now, obviously, the return has to be worth, the juice has to be worth the squeeze, right? You're not going to just trade, Gavin Williams for nothing. Do I think eventually they're going to trade Gavin Williams? Absolutely. His agent is Scott Boras. I don't even think Scott Boras and Chris Anthony have ever spoken to each other. That's how far away they are from extending Gavin Williams. But that's beside the point. These moves, they gave up essentially nothing. They didn't give up Ralphie. They didn't give up Ganano. They didn't give up Khalil Watson. They didn't give up Cooper Ingle. There's a lot of players a lot of top prospects that didn't get traded to make these moves. And so I was impressed with that for sure. Foster Griffin, he's going to step right into the starting rotation. He's going to hopefully give us some quality innings. Another lefty, which is interesting. So many MLB teams are looking and searching for right-handed hitting because there's not a lot of good right-handed hitters available. And if you have one, you just don't move him because he's like a dime a dozen. And so having three lefties in the starting rotation might create some interesting matchups. I was the reason why I wanted them to go get a big-time frontline starter is because when the Guardians are going to go into New York or, to any of these teams in the playoffs, they need to have three guys that you can trust to really make them to give you some quality innings. And I didn't think Tanner Bybee was really one of those guys. We've seen what happens when Tanner Bybee has to face the New York Yankees 2 times in a 7-game series. One time, he didn't get out of the second inning. The other time, he gave us a good start. So, but you need 3 guys. If you want to be confident going into a playoff series, you need 3 guys that can give you a legitimate chance to go win 4 games out of 7. And in the playoffs, I think pitching trumps. So that's why I wanted to get a frontline starter. And Foster Griffin, would I say he's a Cy Young Award candidate? No. But I think he's really good, and I think he improves the depth of the rotation. He raises the floor because Slade Ciccone, not very good, and Joey Cantillo just is so young and so raw almost, not able to get you into the 6th inning very consistently. So it's just one of those things where Foster Griffin raises the floor of the starting pitching rotation, and I think it was a great move. The next one was Joe Adell, the right-handed hitting outfielder, who is not very good at defense. But I also think, listen, I don't care about defense in the outfield. I just don't care. I don't think you win World Series with Gold Glove defense in the outfield. I need my outfielders to hit for power and drive in runs and produce that way. We've had Stephen Kwan for all these years and all these platinum gloves, and it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. I'm not worried about Joe Adell's defense, especially when I don't think he's going to be playing every day. I think he's going to be he's going to be a guy that's going to face a lot of left-handed pitching to improve our offense against left-handed pitching because it's the worst in baseball. David Fry is sent down. Thank God. I can't, that's the best. That might be one of the addition by subtraction as far as I'm concerned. So Joe Adell is definitely one of those guys that has real power, real pop, and he can make great plays when it's needed to make great plays. He's the only one who's ever robbed 3 home runs in the same game. He did that. He was that guy. So a lot of it probably is also an effort thing for him because, again, there's no reason to be laying out full effort for a ball in the 6th inning in June when I can just go when I need him to hit all year round. It doesn't matter. I'm not worried about it. Again, outfield defense is not a priority, at least for me. So I'm really happy about Joe Adell. I think it's going to be a great trade. I think it's really awesome that they went and got him. I think he's going to improve that offense. and give it some real pop, because this team's just not hitting the ball over the fence enough. Period. Point blank. End of story. And that's what he does. So we'll see what happens. Lastly, Nathaniel Lowe. This is a direct response to Kyle Manzardo being the worst offensive first baseman in baseball. Hand up accountability. I was wrong about Kyle Manzardo. I thought Kyle Manzardo was better than this, and he isn't. He is. I went to a game recently, and I got to sit 2 rows back behind the first base dugout. So really good seats. Shout out to Dave for taking me. And it was an eye-opening experience of how unathletic and uncoordinated Kyle Manzardo looks at first base. He looks like a baby deer. His footwork at first base is not very good. And he struggles with balls that are not thrown directly to his chest. And it's a struggle. Not to mention that essentially makes him a 25-year-old DH who gets beat by fastballs regularly. He's not punishing fastballs enough to be a 25-year-old DH. So I was wrong. I think it's good that they made the adjustment and sent him down. And I don't think that we'll see Kyle. We may see Kyle Manzardo towards the end of the year, but I don't think we'll see Kyle Manzardo until next year, because Nathaniel Lowe is definitely a rental. I don't think there's any more years of control. I could be wrong about that, but I don't think so. So we'll see. I mean, it's another good piece. He's a professional hitter. He's going to give you legitimate at-bats, better at-bats than Rhys Hoskins. Rhys Hoskins just doesn't swing at many pitches, so people think it's good at-bats, but Rhys Hoskins is also hitting 180, and I don't really want to hear the good at-bat theory on a guy who's been in the major leagues for as long as Rhys Hoskins has been. There's no more good at-bats when you're a veteran of Rhys Hoskins' caliber. You're just not getting hits. Period. End of story. The good at-bat theory is awesome when you're talking about young players, rookies, 25-year-olds, 26-year-olds, in their first or second year in Major League Baseball, even third year. But when you're Rhys Hoskins and you've been a pro for as long as he has, I don't want to hear about good at-bats. I need results. Period. Point blank. End of story. So Nathaniel Lowe and Rhys Hoskins will man first base. My guess is that you'll see Joe Adell playing in right field on days that chase against left-handed pitching, and Chase Lauder will be your DH. And then you'll see Martinez in center field, and then Kwan in left against left-handed pitching. And Rhys Hoskins will play first base in that situation. So they definitely did more than I was very impressed. They did more than I thought they would do. They did, they showed a pulse, and they definitely got a blessing from Dolan to go make some moves. I don't want to say he gave them a blessing to do their jobs, because this is their jobs, but he gave them the go ahead to make some moves, because they're going to have to pay these guys. Joe Adell and Nathaniel Lowe are making more money than Kyle Manzardo is, so they're going to have to pay them. So I don't want to say do their jobs, but no, actually I can't say that. I can't say. Paul Dolan gave Chris Antonetti and Mike Chernoff the opportunity to go make some moves and do their jobs, and I'm happy that he did that. But I think it's super sad that we have to say that. I think it's disgusting. I think it's shameful. But again, I'm happy about it, and I think it was an awesome thing to see. I think they made some good moves, surprising moves, better moves than I thought they were going to make. So happy about it. The other thing about the trade deadline, I want to talk about this Tarek Skubal trade. Nobody is mad at the Tigers. Nobody's mad that they accepted a deal that would return them less than they would have gotten from another team. And I don't understand why. But I have a theory. See, I'm not mad at the Dodgers for making this trade, because there were better trades out there, and other teams could have made this trade. This isn't like they went out and just signed Tarek Skubal for $1 billion, more than anybody else could offer. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure. The only thing that really bothers me about the Dodgers is the deferred contracts, the $1 billion that they owe some key players on their roster into the 2040s. That feels dirty. That feels grimy. That feels like cheating. And nobody else is doing that, really, if you think about it. They gave Blitzer and Dolan agreed to a contract for Jose Ramirez. It's deferred. But Jose Ramirez is a local hometown hero. No, I shouldn't say local. He's a hometown hero in Cleveland. He's going to have a statue. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame in Cleveland. He should be a Hall of Famer at Cooperstown. It's a different scenario. Shohei Ohtani and Mookie Betts and all these guys that they're giving these deferred contracts to, there's no story there. There's no relationship there. This is just pure business. And that's why it feels dirty. But as far as the Dodgers using a hedge fund, using TV money to make this money and pay these guys, it honestly doesn't bother me. The Dodgers want to win. They have competitive excellence. I would have no complaints if the Dodgers were actually paying all their players the annual salary that they should be paying them based on the total amount of dollars they're in their contract. Shohei Ohtani's deal is over $700 million, but he's only making the minimum because he's getting paid until 2046. So there's something to be said about how they're doing it, not what they're doing is the problem. The deferred contracts are the part that makes me, side with the owners of the league, which leads me to my point. My theory here is that there is some collusion amongst the owners to get the fans on the side of the owners for the impending lockout. And there's going to be a lockout. I think that there's no way they play 162 games in 2027. There are some writers out there that think that they're not going to play baseball all in 2027. I think that the owners are prepared to essentially rise to the occasion and stand up to the players, and the players are trying to call the owners' bluff. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a long lockout. My guess is they're going to play somewhere between 60 and 100 games next year, is my guess. But I think if you look at all the lockouts that have happened across the three major sports, the fans are almost always on the side of the players. The owners are greedy. The owners are this. The owners are that. The players need this. The players need that. But in this scenario, I think some fans are on the side of the owners because they think the players essentially are asking for, wanting too much money and don't want a salary cap. And the only people that are getting hurt in this MLB lockout is the fans. I think there's going to be a portion of fans that side with the players. There's going to be a portion of fans that side with the owners. But the thing about it is the fans all want the same thing. The fans want a salary cap, and the fans want a salary floor. To be honest with you, teams like the Guardians and the Pirates and the Brewers and all these small market teams are as much at fault for what is currently happening in Major League Baseball as the Dodgers. Why does Paul Dolan get away with having an $80 million payroll or less? The Pirates doing this for a long time. Why are they getting away with essentially being a farm system for the Yankees, for the Mets, for the Red Sox, for the Dodgers? It's, I had the opinion that the Guardians, if the Guardians had averaged $150 million of payroll in the last decade, we would have won at least one World Series. At least one. Enough money to keep the talent that you create, that you develop, that you draft, that you scout. And so, but I think with this lockout, the people that are going to lose the most are the fans. Because the players, especially the top end players, like they can sit out. They can miss a whole year. The bottom tier players, the minor leaguers, they're the ones that want to play. And they'll, and to be honest with you, the minor leaguers are probably want a floor as well. Pay me more. They want to get paid more. Rookies want to get paid more. Absolutely. So to think about where we're headed in this trade and how it impacts the trade. I think the owners want the fans to be mad at the Dodgers and be mad at the players because this trade doesn't make any sense. Tarek Skubal is the best pitcher in baseball, best starting pitcher in baseball, and he was traded for essentially 3 above average to below average prospects, none of which are really, truly major league ready prospects, game changing, franchise changing prospects. I mean, Mason Miller got traded for the number 1 shortstop prospect in all of baseball last year, and he's a relief pitcher. So something is going on. Something doesn't make sense. And it smells weird, and it probably tastes a little weird too. So I don't know. We'll see. Could be way off. Could be reading too much into it. But something was off with that trade. And this lockout is going to be super ugly. And this trade will be talked about as part of it moving forward. All right. Let's talk about him. LeBron. We didn't really share our thoughts. So this is definitely going to be a little old news. Definitely going to be something that's already happened. It's been talked about ad nauseum. But LeBron chose the 76ers. I said that he can't go to Golden State. That's the one place he cannot go is Golden State. But I'm also pretty disappointed in him going to the 76ers and going to Philadelphia because it feels random. It does feel like chasing titles. It feels like it was choosing the best roster. And I don't necessarily blame him for that. I think, that's just NBA culture, ring culture. And I am, from this decision, I have retired from discussing Michael Jordan, LeBron, who's better. I'm not getting into it. I don't really care anymore. I think people that think Michael Jordan is the best will never allow anybody to be better than Michael Jordan, even if they deserve to be, because of the mystique, because of how it made you feel watching Michael play. It's a feeling. And then with LeBron lovers, there is a different feel to it. It's just, it is how you feel. And, is he ring chasing? Probably. Do I like the 76er move? Absolutely not. I think you're going to look, if they don't win the title, we're going to look back at him in a 76er uniform, and it's going to look like Shaq playing for the Celtics. Old, weathered, not the same. But as far as the Cavs, from a Cavs fan point of view, he basically told Cleveland that they're a bunch of losers. They're the lovable losers. Donovan Mitchell, why are you always tired in the postseason? Evan Mobley, when are you going to develop a little bit of toughness, a little bit of assertiveness? Jared Allen. Jared Allen is a very expensive rim running center. Rim running centers grow on trees, man, in the NBA. They're just everywhere. James Harden. How would that work? And I'm disappointed that the Cavs didn't do enough. And I think everybody's to blame here. I think LeBron is to blame. I think Kobe Altman is to blame. I think Dan Gilbert's to blame. I think LeBron doesn't respect Kenny Atkinson. And to be honest with you, Kenny Atkinson's performance last year was downright disgusting. I don't understand coaches that take timeouts to the end. They don't use timeouts in the end of close games. Like, what are you saving them for? They don't roll over. This isn't sick time. It's not PTO that rolls over. So I'm disappointed in that, and I think it's a very telling message that he doesn't think that they were good enough. And he's probably right. The last 4 years have told you that he's right. If they traded Donovan Mitchell for Jaylen Brown, does LeBron come to Cleveland? Maybe. Probably a good chance. He chose Jaylen Brown in Philadelphia and Tyrese Maxey. He didn't choose Joel Embiid over Evan Mobley. Joel Embiid's probably not going to be healthy. But if you really think about it, Tyrese Maxey and Donovan Mitchell, probably a push. Evan Mobley is probably a plus over Joel Embiid just from a health perspective and availability. Joel Embiid healthy is better than Evan Mobley, but Joel Embiid's availability has never been as good. So it's a win for Evan Mobley in my book. And Jaylen Brown is significantly better than James Harden. Sorry, Chris, but Jaylen Brown at this point, and I don't think it's it's crazy to say, but Jaylen Brown's better than James Harden. Period. End of story. So, I'm not very excited about the Cavs season coming up. Especially if they don't make a move. There's talks of Kuminga. They did sign the big guy from Europe. We'll see. I don't know, but at the end of the day, the NBA star-driven league, and our stars aren't as good as other team stars. And the Cavs went from being essentially the second best team in the East to now probably the fourth or fifth. So it's going to be tough, and they're going to have to prove it. So, I don't like the move. Sum it up, I don't love the move that LeBron made. I'm kind of distancing myself from talking about him in the sense of being the best, being the greatest. I think there's a difference between best and greatest. But again, I'm retiring from that conversation. I don't want to have that conversation anymore because it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. All right. Now to more positive talk. Ohio State. One of the best schedules in my lifetime as an Ohio State fan. I was an Ohio State fan starting back in 2000. My first memory is the 2002 season when they won the national title. And I thought that was, one of the coolest things I've ever experienced. I thought we would never lose ever again. And so I've been a fan of Ohio State for the last 24 years. This is the best schedule I've ever seen them have. This is the toughest schedule. And as a fan, I am excited. The last couple years, man, have been sleepy. The sleepy schedules. Not exciting. We're waiting for the playoffs, and there's not a lot of games to be excited about. I don't like talking about other conferences and other teams having these great games, and we just have to listen about Ohio State. Oh, they won by 30. Oh, they won by 40. Oh, they won by, there's nothing, my anxiety level is higher as an Ohio State fan, but I enjoy it more. I enjoy the competitiveness of these games. And from a viewing standpoint, it's exciting. You can build your whole day around it. At our house, we wear scarlet and gray on Saturdays. And when Ohio State comes on, like everything stops. And my kids, my two boys, like they're watching. We are, I might let them choose their NFL team to break the Browns curse, but don't get it twisted. Like, we're Ohio State fans here. We want to watch exciting football games on Saturdays, and we're going to get that this year. So I wanted to talk about the confidence level in order of how I feel going into, as of right now, going into those 5 games. And I'm going to start with my least confident. And actually, I'm going to go most confident to least confident. So my most confident is the USC game. Until proven otherwise, these are games that Ryan Day just hasn't lost. For starters, we're coming off a bye. So Ryan Day, from my memory, I don't think has lost coming off a bye in the regular season. Lincoln Riley has never shown that he can play defense against a team of equal or better talent. So that's 2. 3, I think our defense is going to be another top 10 defense in college football again. And I think we're going to be able to stop the run and force Jaden Maeva to be a thrower. And, don't get me wrong, I'm scared of Jaden Maeva. I have as the second best quarterback in the Big Ten. I think he is super talented. I think he is a nitrogen bomb waiting to happen. But I don't think this is a game that Ryan Day has shown us that he's going to lose. So until proven otherwise, I feel very good about this game. Mainly coming off a bye. The travel out to LA will be earlier. They'll be used to the time difference, all those things. And they're coming off of a game. They have a bye, but before the bye, they play Indiana. So they're going to get to see who they are. They would have played Texas. They'll have played Iowa. They have played Indiana. And so they're going to know who they are going into that game against USC. They're going to know exactly who they are, what they're good at, what they're not good at. And I think Ryan Day understands he knows what his team is capable of and what they're not capable of by this time of the year usually, and he'll do what it takes for them to win these games. If he needs to go out and score 40, he'll go out and score 40. If he needs to play the clock game, he'll play the clock game. He's shown it time and time again, depending on the team that he has, he will morph himself and create a version of himself that allows them to win these games how they need to win the games. So my next most confident, it would be the Michigan game. I don't believe in Bryce Underwood. I think Bryce Underwood's not very good. I think Kyle Whittingham has never developed an NFL passing quarterback in his career, and he's going to run Bryce Underwood to death. I think Kyle Whittingham is a really good football coach. I think he's a better football coach than Sherrone Moore. I think that he is going to stabilize that program and return and be an adult in the room. But I don't think when it comes to this game, this is a talent differential still. I think Michigan's defense is going to be really good, as they always are. But again, this game still comes down to quarterback play, and Bryce Underwood's just not good enough. Not to mention, Bryce Underwood versus Matt Patricia was a glaring, like, I don't care if there was no quarterback coach or not. It was not even close. And it's not going to be close again. And I don't think Kyle Whittingham understands this rivalry yet. And the only way you're going to find out is your first time in it. So, Ryan Day struggled with this rivalry. Obviously, it's well documented. We've seen it all 4 times in a row. And he didn't have any Ohio ties. And Kyle Whittingham has no ties to this rivalry. And it takes a while to understand. So I feel I'm never going to put it as my most confident game because it's still the rivalry. I still respect the rivalry. I hate Michigan, but I respect the rivalry. I respect the program and what this game means. It's an entirely separate entity in itself. But Ryan Day understands that his fan base wants to see them win in Columbus, and we're going to get it. All right. Third, Texas. Listen, Texas is really good. The roster is incredible. Second best roster in the country. Arch Manning looked much different in the second half of last year. The defense is legitimate, and it's at Texas. It's going to be at night. It's going to be a good environment. I don't think I've ever heard of anybody saying that Texas is some crazy home atmosphere for Texas. But again, it's NFL coordinators versus college coordinators. And Ryan Day and Arthur Smith versus Will Muschamp is such a crazy advantage for Ohio State. It's not even funny. There is no real margins in the roster, in my opinion. I think Texas's offensive line might be a little bit better than our offensive line. But I would say the rosters are very similar. There's not a big difference in the two rosters. The margins are thin. The coaching staff difference, though, is the reason why I think Ohio State's going to win this game. I think Ryan Day is going to score a bunch of points in this game, or going to try to score a bunch of points in this game. I think we're going to get to see Ryan Day move a little faster, a little bit of a higher tempo, and show us that he still has his fastball when it comes to trying to score a bunch of points. Because I think he might have to, because they're not going to – Ohio State's not going to keep Texas under 14 points. Like, they're going to have to – I would anticipate a score of 30-24, 30-21. I think Ohio State's going to have to score 30 points because I think Texas scores probably 20 plus 20 to 27 points. So I think Ohio State's got to win 30 to win the game, but I think they will. Because I think, again, like I said, the coaching matchup is such an advantage for Ohio State, and I think that's the difference in the game. All right. Second least confident game is Indiana. This is where I consider coaching staffs to be equal for different reasons, but equal still when it comes to just at the end of the day, I think they're equal coaching staff. The far and away 2 best coaching staffs in the country. I think Indiana, the slight advantage I have in Ohio State's favor is I think Ohio State will have played. They have played at Texas and they have played at Iowa, so they'll have played two very solid, very good football teams. They're going to have a good idea of who they are. Indiana's first 6 games are not good, not competitive. So I think we're going to have a good idea of who we are versus, and they're going to still be, I think they're going to think they know who they are, but you never know until you go and you face a common opponent that is equal talent to you. So that's the one advantage. However, Kurt Cignetti proved last year that he doesn't need to play a great non-conference schedule or that difficult of a schedule to win these big games. They just did it all last year. They were 16-0. They're national champs. They're the top dog right now. Ryan Day getting his get back has usually been a good thing for Ohio State. But again, Kurt Cignetti is a really good football coach. Shanahan, great football coach. Haynes, good football coach. The Indiana football team is going to do their job. They're going to be well coached, and they're not going to make a lot of mistakes. So I think it's going to be I think that one could be one of the best games of the year, regardless of what happens, regardless of what other conference do. So I'm not. That's my second least confident game, but I still feel like we have a good chance. I wouldn't be surprised if we go into that week and Ohio State, the line is either a pick 'em or Ohio State is favored. My least confident game is Oregon coming to the shoe. I think Oregon is the best roster in the country. I think Dan Lanning is doing a lot of the right things. He's been very quiet. He's been the opposite of Sark. He is getting his football team ready to go. I did see, though, that he said that they might be rotating 6 to 8 offensive linemen in their rotation, which is I just don't flat out disagree with. I don't think that it has ever worked. So, yikes. But this game is coming off of the Indiana game, the USC game, these 3 games in 4 weeks. It's going to be tough. It's just a bad matchup for Ohio State. Oregon's defensive line is far and away the best defensive line in the country. And the weakness of Ohio State's roster is the offensive line. So it's not a good matchup whatsoever. We are at home. We're really going to know who we are by this point in the season. And Brian Day knows what to expect from a Dan Lanning team. Again, I think we have a coaching advantage in this game. But again, it's just, it's a matchup nightmare. And, that's why I would say that I'm least confident in. So we'll see. But like I said, man, I am so excited for this football season for Ohio State just because the amount of good games there are. There's so much intrigue. There's so many storylines. There's just like a big game. It feels like we have a big game like every other week, something to be excited for to get you through the week. So I can't wait. I can't wait to fire up the grill. I can't wait to fire up breakfast, to blast music in my house and dance around with my kids in our Ohio State gear all day, all morning. Jace is going to play some soccer. It has to be in the morning, though, because we're watching football. So, I am so excited. I'm excited to see what we can do with this channel, what I can do with it. Like I said, I don't have a schedule right now. I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know what it's going to be like. We're just going to throw it out there and we're going to send it. When I think I got something to say, I'll come on the mic and say it. And I hope to, you guys can join me on this journey. And, the nice thing about me is I don't really care what anybody really thinks. So if you like what you're hearing, you could tell me. If you don't like what you're hearing, you could tell me that too. But I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you following. And let's see where we can go with this. Peace.